Time for another round of overrated or underrated. I'm going to read out a list of things and you're going to tell me if they're overrated or underrated. So the first one is average speed. So this is suggested by Aaron in Nashville, who said, when I first started riding, I was using my average speed on a ride as my biggest metric for performance. It's something I know a lot of people do and it makes me very upset. Anyway, the more I've ridden since then, the less I care about how fast I am going. I would love to hear Jarl's thoughts. Can I say Jarl? Well, he written, it's literally Jarl's thoughts. I have historically done it. I know a lot of people that do it. And I tell you what, the place where I most significantly noticed that it is such a bad metric was moving to the north. Yep. In London, you can kind of get away with it because it's so flat. It like you can ride huge distances in London and practically hit no hills at all. So it's a lot easier to manage an average speed. The second you start riding up here, it is so hilly and so varied, and it's just so different that you can't use speed as an appropriate metric.
You could if you were saying, okay, my average speed on this climb or my average speed on a climb of this sort of steepness should be around X.
But you can't use it at an entire ride.
No.
Well, you can, but you can't.
You can get in and out of it as well. Is your Garmin set to auto pause at 4 kilometers an hour or at 0 kilometers an hour? I mean, traffic lights you stop at. When you accelerate forward, that's all going to affect your average speed. You can con your average speed to look much better than what it actually is. But also, and are you enjoying the ride? That's what's important. Like
ultimately, what I think we're all getting at here is average speed is not a performance metric.
It's definitely overrated.
It is definitely overrated. Yeah, I actually forgot we were even doing overrated or underrated then.
I've done 16 kilometers an hour average gravel rides. That is 20 times harder than 30 kilometers an hour road rides. It's
performance metrics are, well, things that you can use to monitor your performance and fitness are power meters, heart rate monitors, doing certain tests, riding certain courses in certain ways and repeating them. Yep. Ultimately testing and looking at benchmarks on that, but just generalizing an average speed on all or frequent or many rides that you do, it's overrated. It's a rubbish metric.
Yeah, it doesn't even obviously it doesn't take into account varying terrains, but it also doesn't take into account varying, like how tired you are, for example. Like, you know, you might just do a ride and you're not able to put out the same watts you were last week because
or you've not eaten enough food.
There's loads of
things. Not drunk enough water. The other thing that I don't like about it is it encourages you to ride hard from the start and all the way to the end because you're focused on trying to maintain that average rather than giving your body a chance to warm up and cool down. Next is 650B wheels.
Most underrated thing ever. I'm not having anything else. That's just a fact.
So I think there's two ways to look at this. To most people that ride bikes won't even care or know what 650B wheels are, and to them, they are arguably underrated. To people in the gravel world like Nick, in my opinion, they are massively overrated.
They're not. They're underrated.
Because I've ridden both. I have both. I arguably don't even notice a difference. However, what a 650B does allow me to do, especially on a really small frame, is put massive tyres on it. So I've got 2.1 mountain bike tyres on my steel custom Howler gravel bike, which I absolutely love. If I had 700 wheels, I just wouldn't be able to fit that kind of size tyre in it, which is appropriate for that bike.
Yeah, it's much better for smaller bikes.
Are you talking specifically gravel or road here? Can you specify?
Gravel. Road. Well, I think it should be a thing on road as well for really small bikes. And that's the only place I would have that. But for gravel, it's bigger tires. It's more comfortable. If you run tubeless, you'll seal more punctures. You'll have more grip. Your acceleration slightly better. You don't ride gravel at such massively high speed that you need that roll over. You need to, if you're riding up something technical, it's just easier. Getting through tighter corners is easier.
I have to say, I haven't noticed any difference in like rolling resistance, or I don't find my 650B bike to be like slower than a 7. So my gravel bike with 650B is like a proper gravel bike. You know, it's massive tires, it's heavy, it's bulky, and it's not particularly slower than a really fast
carbon
gravel bike
Yeah.
with 700s and 38mm tires on it. They both ride incredibly well and are fast bikes. So like, I don't think there's a difference in that. In that, the idea that 650B is slower, I think is overrated because they're not.
But again, we're talking averages versus non-average. You are way below average in weight. So somebody
Thank
that
you.
weighs 80, 90 kilos and above, a bigger tire is going to make the bike more durable. You're going to have more grip. You're going to have more leeway to do things. When we had
Yeah,
Milky
fair.
riding with us at 120 kilos in weight, plus his bike's weight, 130 kilograms. If he was to run 700 Cs, where at that point, tires limited to 40 mil tire on most gravel bikes, you'd have to run at 50 PSI to not puncture or just dent his rims, which will have no grip, mega uncomfortable. Where with 650Bs, bigger tires could go up to 2.1 inch and he's running it at 25 PSI. It's more enjoyable. So it's just not utilized enough. I'm not saying that it's going to kill 700. I think 700 has definitely got a place, especially now with 700 by 50 mil for gravel. But it's just, once again, it'll take a bit of time.
And you would always advocate for tubeless on gravel bikes, wouldn't you? So
Yes.
you're not having to deal with the different inner tubes.
Yeah, tubeless has come on massively over the last 3 years. But obviously, bigger tires brings it closer to mountain biking, where they've done it for years and years and years. The mistake people make is thinking tubeless is going to stop all punctures. But if it stops one puncture,
Yeah.
from my own experience, I usually get about 8 or 9 punctures for every one where I have to plug it. That's being saved by the tubeless. Put a little bit of air in, off you go. For me, tubeless it's just not.
What are you saying, Emily? Overrated or underrated?
I honestly, I've never ridden a pair. I don't know. Maybe ignorance is
For
bliss.
your size bike, 650 would be
Yeah, we
different,
talked about this in a previous podcast. So I actually bought a larger bike than is comfortable for me because I didn't want to deal with 650B wheels on a road bike because I didn't want to have to deal with buying different inner tubes to what Jimmy has, because we keep them all, because we both ride, we keep them all in a big bag and it's just like pull it out, whereas I would have to manage my own stock of smaller and I just didn't want to have to deal with that.
On a road bike, I can see problems. So I understand.
Although
that.
I had a dream the other night where, you know how we were talking about I'm going to get a new bike? I had a dream that I bought a new bike.
What was it?
It was a Liv.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know.
Why? That's so weird.
I don't know. It must have just got in my head somehow because I guess they have. I don't know.
What did it look like?
It was small and it was purple sparkly, and I don't think I would ever buy a
I
purple
don't know
sparkly
why.
bike.
I visualized when you said live a purple sparkly bike.
Someone's been subliminal messaging me and Jimmy. Clearly,
So weird.
yeah. That's not. I don't think I will do that. But anyway,
Muck off.
No comment.
No, you have to comment. That's the whole point of this part of the podcast.
Overrated.
I think they have fantastic marketing and branding. Their products, in my opinion, are hugely overrated, as are most cycling-specific cleaning products.
they're everywhere, aren't they? They're in Aldi. I saw them in the middle
Muck
aisle
off.
in the middle aisle of Aldi.
I was chatting to, when we were at the Garmin dinner, the guy that now works for Garmin used to work for Muck Off, and
Yeah.
he was saying that Muck Off are sold in something like 70 countries. They are absolutely massive. I hadn't realized how humongous Muck Off are. And I guess it's because it's such a retail sellable product. So they can just sell to like supermarkets and shops and loads of stuff that's like outside of just, cycling retailers. So therefore, they're probably humongous.
I just think there's a lot better products out there.
Tell us some.
Cause a lot
I don't know.
less-
I've used Muck Off
I've
before.
personally, I've always liked Fenix. We've been using for a few months now Juice Lubes, and they just make really good lubes and cleaners, and it just works really well. It actually smells well. They do like a GT85 equivalent without PTFE in it.
Are they comparable in price?
Yes, yeah. Obviously, Muck Off being so big, in some places,
cheap.
shops will be clearing it out.
Yeah.
But it's not expensive products. I mean, I think Fenix for a bottle of lubes is about £7. And I think Juice Lubes comes just below 10 quid. So it's not silly money.
But the problem I have even with that is there's products available that are as good as those products that cost £2, £1,
Like
maybe
what?
even less. Well, you can like, for example, you used to be able to get a motorbike cleaning product in like, it must be like 10 litre urn thingy, absolutely massive, and it costs about 60, 70 quid, which is obviously a lot of money. We bought one about 3 years ago and we've used about a third of it. Like, it lasts for eternity. Francis has got one as well. It's pink, which is one of the brands that we are talking about here is Colour. So is it the same product? Who knows?
No.
Speculation.
We use motocross products in the bike shop for quite a few years.
That's it. That's what I've got.
And it was excellent. It worked really well. You want a few companies that specialize in a few products and just do it well. Fenix is a good example of that. They're not trying to make everything in terms of sealants and things like that, where Styrkr focuses on sealant. I know they've started getting into the cleaning business, but it's not thousands of products or hundreds of products, yeah.
Frame bags.
Like, I couldn't live without mine anymore. If you asked me 5 years ago, I would say it's the most overrated product ever. It looks terrible, but it's like a handbag on your bike. I have snacks in there. I've got money in there. I've got tools. I've got jackets. I've got... when I ride a road bike now, I feel like I've forgotten something at home.
I agree. I'm a prepper. I like to have everything. And also when I commuted, I never wanted to commute with the backpack. I don't like bags at all. I've got wonky shoulders and it hurts me to carry bags. So I would always have some sort of frame bag for commuting as well.
I think luggage in general is still underrated.
Yeah.
It's just useful. I don't like having a backpack, even for like commuting and stuff, like you said. So yeah, underrated. Suspension on gravel bikes. I'm going to go in first with underrated. And I'm going to caveat that with, when I think of suspension, I'm not just thinking about a mountain bike suspension fork. There is lots of different types of suspension. Redshift is a great example of that. I think it's underrated because the tests that I've done and the bikes that I've ridden, there's a bike on the wall over there which is caked in Redshift. It's incredibly comfortable.
I'm going to go both. Underrated for the performance benefits, the comfort benefits, and how well it's going to ride. Massively overrated and how much it's going to cost you to maintain your bike with the suspension fork on it.
Well, a traditional suspension fork, sure.
Yeah.
But there's other options.
Oh, yes. Like the Redshift statement obviously needs no servicing. I could never ride my bike without it again.
You can.
No, I can't. Like, I love it so much. I turned down, I was looking at getting a bike, but it would only take an integrated handlebar like your Scott, and I won't ride it because I can't put my Redshift on it. It's just so comfy. It actually saved me from a crash the other day. So, yeah, no, it's...
Title of this podcast, Redshift Saved My Life.
Yeah, Redshift.
Keep sending your suggestions to wildonespodcast@cademedia.co.uk and we might read yours out in the next show.